Special Olympics into the sport of canoe kayak in Ontario. We've seen like major growth over the last couple of years within Special Olympics kayak programs and athletes' performances. All of this wouldn't have been possible without our local canoe clubs, as they're the ones who are fostering the environment that promotes healthy athletes, inclusivity, ensuring that all paddlers feel welcome and valued. So before Special Olympics joined forces with canoe kayak, local clubs offered a program called Paddle All. These programs laid the foundation for inclusive environment that we champion today, offering support to athletes who are involved both in recreational kayaking and performance kayaking. Special Olympics came in more recently. They played a pivotal role in refining and expanding these programs by sharing knowledge and information and best practices. Within CKO, we name Special Olympics athletes to our team on our Ontario team every year. And we offer support to all of our athletes in Team Ontario to help elevate their performance. So we offer nutrition, mental performance services, as well as access to resources and coaching. We invite everyone to 3 off-season training camps in the winter, as well as a week-long spring training camp in Niagara, as well as opportunities to race for Team Ontario in the summer. So last year marked a historic milestone for Special Olympics and canoe kayak. Special Olympics was included in the International Canoe Federation Sprint World Championships for the first time as an exhibition event. So we had a team of over 20 athletes, 15 of them being from Ontario, competing for Canada on the world stage in Nova Scotia. This was an experience that all of our athletes, coaches, spectators, families will never forget. It was full of emotions, celebrations, memories, and friendships. I was there with Rachel, paddling behind them as a guide as they won their first international medals, and I may or may not have been crying the whole time. This year, Special Olympics was included in the ICF World Championships again, but our athletes were competing for just 1 male and 1 female spot. The qualification took place in Ottawa at the Canada Cup Regatta. So we had 4 Special Olympics athletes racing for Team Ontario, with one of them being our very own Rachel Cohen. And Rachel earned that 1 female spot to go to World Championships. She won her race. She won her race. She got a personal best by, what did we say in the car, 9 or 10 seconds? Something like that. And again, I was on the shore crying. But I'll pass things over to Rachel to introduce herself and share her experience at those World Championships with you. Do this over for you.
Hi, my name is Rachel Cohen, and my pronouns are she, her. I have been a part of Special Olympics for 18 years, and I'm currently training and competing in 5 sports. I participate in swimming, kayaking, floor hockey, softball, and 5-pin bowling. When I was young, I didn't like sports at all, but then I found Special Olympics and everything changed for the better. I felt like I truly belonged and everyone accepted me just the way I am. Special Olympics has helped me achieve my goal in sports, make amazing friends, and create wonderful memories. It is a place where all come together, where we're all unique and special. My proudest sport achievement was competing for Team Canada at the Sprint Canoe Kayak World Championships in Duisburg, Germany, where I won a gold medal in unified K2 200 meters. Unified K2 is a 2-person kayak with 1 Special Olympics athlete and 1 unified partner. My unified partner was Maddie Schmidt, who has been on the Canadian national team for many years. I also raced in a 1-person kayak called a K1 in 200 meters as well. It was an amazing experience to compete for Canada overseas this summer.
All right. Next up, we're pleased to introduce Kirsten, Bobbie, and Christina Swett to present our next pillar impact story.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Probably turn it on. Let's start.
Broke it. Okay, we're back. Thanks, Johnny. Yeah, afternoon, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us today and for today and tomorrow at the summit. We're all very excited to be here, share with you what we've been up to for the past number of years alongside most of you, and most importantly, talk about what's next. My name is Kirsten Bobbie. As you can see on the screen, my pronouns are she, her. I'm standing on the stage today as a middle-aged female Caucasian with glasses, a black and green blazer and shirt on, joined by my co-chair, Christina Swett, who will speak to you in a moment, and followed or directly behind me, our large screen with all of our slides. I'm actually fortunate to live, work, and play on the land here where we reside. I reside in Scarborough as well, which is on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. I also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties signed with multiple Mississaugas and the Chippewa bands. I currently work for Special Olympics Canada, joined the OPC a long time ago, potentially back in 2019, but it's been a blur because we've been working with a lot of the organizers here for so long. I was with Special Olympics Ontario at the time, and really excited that Special O could be involved with the OPC and has been treated as kind of one of the founding partners from the start. And I'm going to let Christina introduce herself next.
Good afternoon, everyone. So like Kirsten said, my name is Christina. I am standing here today, very similar description as a Caucasian female with glasses and a green shirt on. I do have a physical disability. I left my wheelchair on the floor, so we're hidden for now. But I am a para-athlete in a couple of different sports, wheelchair basketball being one of them. I started in this role in 2018 when I was working with the Ability Center Durham. During COVID, I had a large career shift, went the clinical route. So as an occupational therapist, I now work in seating and mobility services, as well as in the school system, which actually has been very helpful, obviously, with working with the education pillar. So currently I do live in London, which is the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe. I have practiced this so many times. Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lenape, and Attawagan. My neighbors presently actually include the Oneida of the Thames, the Munsee Delaware First Nation, as well as the Chippewa of the Thames First Nation outside of London. I also want to acknowledge that as a descendant of settlers of Newfoundland, which is the ancestral territory of the Beothuk, whose culture was erased as a result of this settling. From a education pillar perspective, we also really want to acknowledge all of the people and organizations that have contributed to this pillar over the last 5 to 8 years, depending on when you start counting. The pillar has evolved a lot and frequently as we moved through the different evolutions and different iterations that the projects of the education pillar were. So on the screen are a number of different organizations that we recognize, and we also at the bottom have recognized that there are many contributors who were also members of other pillars. And so over the course of time, we've had many partners that have contributed to these projects. The education pillar with its first iterations was, as Darda mentioned this morning, part of the very first sort of planning for the Parasport Collective. Stuart McReynolds was leading it at the time, and we want to acknowledge his efforts to ensure it was included. The education system was recognized really as a key point. Again, Darda did a fantastic job of setting the stage this morning, so we probably don't need to repeat a lot of what she said, but the education system is a point of contact for pretty much every Ontarian with a disability if they're experiencing that disability as a school-age child. The aims and approaches to the project within the pillar, they changed a lot with learning learning through projects with the environments that we were in, obviously with the COVID interference that we experienced, as well as the new partnerships that we were able to forge. What started with a direct delivery and very formal approach to resources blossomed a lot. It changed a lot. It really doesn't look at all like what I was running in 2018. But we now have a partnership that allows for flexibility, progression, and resource access for the teachers and staff that are actually working with our children with disabilities, which I think is a really great first step towards changing those attitudes and setting us up so that we can not have future experiences that dart ahead. So when we started with direct delivery. So I was an employee at the Abilities Center, and I led, along with some other staff there, essentially what amounted to some education, capacity building directly for teachers. We did some field trips where the students actually came to the Abilities Center and experienced different parasports. We used a resource that was available at the time called it was the Fundamentals resource produced by the Canadian Paralympic Committee. And what we found over those first couple of years of doing these direct delivery approaches was we were kind of reinventing the wheel. We were using a model that was working in different areas. We had a couple of different partners that were producing or providing similar services. But what it came down to was expertise, resources, and funding to be able to drag and drop this kind of approach. So if we didn't have the expert in the area, or we didn't have the buy-in from the school system, or we didn't have the equipment that we could use kind of as that carrot to bring people in, it was really difficult to replicate. And so we had to learn from that and move forward. So while we infused the Durham region with some equipment and with some expertise and with some of this education for the teachers, so something like having a person to call was absolutely huge and a big learning, that teachers really appreciated that. We did realize that we had to move forward. We had to rethink and really explore what other options we had for building capacity and making this scalable to the magnitude that we had set, because the targets were pretty huge. So we identified that this was the case, and we started looking to our members and working with our Parasport Collective members to figure out what was the best way to capitalize on the great things that were happening within the membership, and the school programs that were available, the different education, the partnerships, all of those sorts of things. We had lots of piecemeal going on. We had lots of different connections, and we started to explore, how do we bring all those together? How do we allow one organization to benefit from the hard work of another, and vice versa, so that there's mutual benefit and we're really increasing the exposure to parasport, the options or opportunities for participation in parasport at that school system level. So we were pitching a couple of different ideas, looking at some of those different programs that existed already. And we were starting to work on including the Ontario Parasport Collective messaging at that larger sort of universal scale in some of those programs that existed already. And then
COVID. So I don't think we need to stand up here and reiterate how much of an effect the pandemic had on all areas of our sector. Certainly education was hit much harder. We thought we had this great plan going forward. We rewrote all of our documents, and then enter a stage where school is at home, no sports can get into schools. And what we kind of thought, there were no field trips or anything like that. So we pivoted like everyone else, and we're very fortunate to have some great buy-in from all of our partners at OPC to help us host a education month that was totally virtual throughout COVID for all of our school partners to participate in. So we focused heavily on parasport, Special O certainly as well, but offering either one day or week-long activities that people could participate in. It was a great success. Certainly not everywhere we might have envisioned that we were going with this, but really happy to create some lemonade out of the lemons that we were given at the time. Also, lucky enough at that time, we started formalizing a partnership with Ophea. And Ophea kind of addressed this gap that we had for systemic change to start to happen in schools. As we worked more with them and maybe about where they thought they might want to go towards and how we could start to help, it really started to compile this wonderful project plan, which has resulted in this resource, amongst other things, that has been prepared for schools across Ontario now, and teachers of all grade levels to participate in. Ophea hosted a session this morning. So for those that were unable to join, that content will be available to you as well to access those resources. And so through our work with Ophea, we were able to continually kind of evolve and adapt what we were offering, and it's turned into a lovely, lovely thing. Where we now have a really good story that we can paint as an education pillar, that has our initial project, our plan, kind of an evolution and a pivot during COVID, and then what our work with Ophea has resulted in stuff that will be long lasting and very legacy focused after this project is over. Speaking of legacy, the main reason I think we're all here this week as well to celebrate the success of the OPC in the last number of years, but also focus on what's next for the sector and how can we gain from working together for all these years and move forward to continue to implement change across the entire sector. So Ophea has created, as I mentioned, these modules that are, yes, designed for teachers, but could totally be applicable for many different things. Beyond that, they've created these working with school 101 panels and some individualized programming that can come into your organization, your school board, anything like that. So if you're joining us today as someone that's from a PSO, a DSO, an NSO, anyone that runs any type of sport programming, make sure that you are connecting with us at some point or directly with Ophea. They have a lot to offer, and we're really happy to be able to allow this to happen through our support for all of you to continue to grow and thrive in schools or start in school programs if you haven't yet. They're very mindful about that pathway from schools to participation in the community, and really on our side to do what we can to help grow participation in all of our sports in school, but then outside of school as well. Thanks. There's 2 sessions at the summit over the next 2 days. If you weren't with us this morning, you missed one of them from Ophea, but again, that stuff is available and will be available following the end of the summit. Our second session is this afternoon. It's actually immediately following us up here this morning. It's in room 104, hosted by Kelly Casper from the Ability Center, and we'll be joined by Emily Glossop from the Ability Center in Ottawa. They can talk about that project that Christina talked about at the beginning, so our initial project from the education pillar, and then what the Ottawa Ability Center has been able to adapt from that to incorporate into their programming, both at the center and in their community. And finally, we're very happy to be joined by an educator themselves, because no one wants to hear from Christina and I for the whole afternoon. So I'd like to welcome Dan Angelosante to the stage. He's an educator from the Toronto Catholic School Board and has been implementing these resources that Ophea made and is here to tell you about his direct experience today.
Hello. All right. I'm very honored actually to be here today amongst all of you. I know there are not very many teachers or educators that are here today. To those who are a teacher or an educator, hello. I'm one of you. Those of you who are not, I also have a little bit of a connection with you as well. Before I became a teacher, I did focus on sport business management. So I started with a graduate degree in kinesiology and health science, which then tied into I guess, a certificate program at Durham College for sport business management. A passion of mine was always youth development, but I did have an opportunity to work in the sport field. So I do appreciate everything that all of you here in this room are doing for a lot of the young people as well as the adults who need you very much, just as much as they need our teachers and our school boards. So my name is Dan Angelosante. I am a teacher with the Toronto Catholic District School Board. I teach health and physical education from the elementary panel, so kindergarten to grade 6. I'm also here under the capacity as an Ophea ambassador, which I'm very happy to have the opportunity to do that now. For those of you who may not know who Ophea specifically is, it's the Ontario Physical Health Ontario Physical Health Education Association. It is an association that's primarily here to support teachers, but again, also there are many different resources that can be used to link in with each and every one of you. Over the course of my career, I guess you could say, as a teacher, I've had the opportunity to work with many students who have a variety of abilities. I've worked with students in the deaf and hard of hearing community. I've worked with students with autism. I've worked with students with cerebral palsy, as well as multiple exceptionalities. This is both in the classroom as well as in the physical education setting or environment. Our school community, or my school community specifically, we have had the opportunity to implement a lot of these different types of resources and these tools, which I'm very happy to speak with you today. The school that I currently teach at is called Our Lady of Sorrows. It is a school in the West End of Toronto. Currently right now we have a multiple exceptionalities class with about 5 to 6 students in it. Those students they participate in activities in an integrated session model, as well as a self-contained model. So the integrated model is they're involved in the class with all other students, and the self-contained model is where they have an opportunity to participate in activities within their own group of students. An example of one of the self-contained activities that they do is they do go bowling, and they're able to participate in bowling activities each week or every other week together as a group in order to be physically active together. But then we also have an integrated model where they get to participate with the students within our regular day-to-day classroom settings. The resource that I really wanted to speak with you about today is the Disability-Centered Movement Supporting Inclusive Physical Education resource that was alluded to here and was developed by Ophea with other partners as well. The ultimate goal of the physical education program at my school, as well as this specific resource, is to provide a safe space where all people feel like they belong. And this is something that we continue to do on an ongoing basis. The Disability-Centered Movement Supporting Inclusive Physical Education resource has had a significant impact on the program I personally deliver and my overall approach to learning and teaching. Language matters. This specific resource speaks towards identifying others and how we refer to other people, but the language that we use matters as well. Before I got a chance to work with students who had these differing abilities, I too fell into the trap of saying, okay, everyone here, walk around your space or run around your space, or okay, everyone jump, let's do 10 jumping jacks. And it was not until my eyes were opened to the wide range of differing abilities that people do have and do face or are faced with each and every day that my language started to change. I'm still learning personally, but using inclusive language, things like travel around your space, things like make yourself as big as you can or make yourself as small as you can, travel fast or travel slow. These are all terms that we are trying our best to also implement within the regular day-to-day classes that we have, whether we have students with differing abilities or whether we don't. This is just our approach to having more inclusive language, and this is something that this resource helps teachers do. It also provides planning advice. So for example, instructional accommodations for many different situations. I might get into some teacher talk here. For example, an IEP. An IEP is an individual education plan. It's specified for a specific student. It does not always have to be for students who have some type of physical ability that is different than others. These IEPs are catered specifically to students that need those additional supports in order to have successes within their every day-to-day life within the school. So this specific resource allows teachers to have those specific questions asked of themselves. So it lists a number of different questions that would set them up in a way to plan appropriately for the students that they have in front of them. Very much like how any of the sporting organizations here, you would cater your specific activities to those athletes that you have in front of you and find ways in order to make it work for them. These questions and these steps are allowing educators and allowing teachers to do the same. It provides us with program planning questions, like I mentioned, that guide us through things like know your students. So understand who it is that's there in front of you, know where they're coming from, know their background, and know the ability that they have. Define your students' level of learning or what their goals are. Each one of the students that we have in front of you and each one of the athletes that you work with on a day-to-day basis, they have their own specific goals. They have their own things that they want to accomplish. So allowing us to cater specifically to that individual need is super important. They allow us to take action. So how are we actually going to make that happen? What additional needs do we need? Do we need an educational assistant to be there in order to help support? Do we need a safer space, more space in order for that to happen? Do we need any assistive technology or any assisted equipment in order to make those things happen? And then finally, we end up reflecting on that decision or on that thing that we have done. So what I would like to do is maybe leave you with one key example that I have personally had the opportunity to implement within my school. So for example, I have a number of students in front of us. We're just coming out of COVID. The outdoor space is our primary space. I have students come up to me almost every single day and they want to play soccer. Soccer, sir. We have this amazing field out here. We have 2 great nets. We want to play soccer. So I say, okay. And I think to myself, I have a boy in my class. He has cerebral palsy. He's confined to a wheelchair. Sometimes he's able to motorize it himself. Sometimes he's not. Each day is different. I don't know what I'm going to see when I show up to that class. I don't know if he's going to have the ability in the motorized chair. I don't know if he's going to need some assistance with that. So I'm thinking to myself, how are we going to make this happen? How can I make all of the students in my class feel good about participating in this soccer activity or in some type of activity that's working with manipulative skills, and make sure that everyone is enjoying their time? Well, this resource did help me by going through those specific key questions. The first thing that I knew was I knew my student. I know that he does not have the ability to use his legs in order to kick a ball. The rest of the class wants to kick. So my object manipulation, we're not throwing the ball. We're trying to focus on soccer. So what do? I start asking myself these questions. The second step, figure out what the learning goal is. So the rest of our students, their goal is to kick, their goal is to pass, their goal is to control that ball. And that should be the same goal for all of our students, no matter what their ability is. And this was possible because we decided to take action. One of the things that I personally was able to do was create a tool, a piece of adaptive equipment in order to allow him the opportunity to continue to participate with the rest of the class. So I went into my garage, I found an old shovel, cut it down, grabbed some 2x4s, found a way to clamp that shovel to his motorized chair. And sorry. I had a grade 4 student tell me that he scored the first goal that he's ever scored in his whole entire life because he had that shovel on his chair. Something as simple as a shovel to just attach to his motorized chair to give him the opportunity to do it himself made the biggest difference in his life. I promised people I promised his parents I wouldn't cry. They call me soft. But this is the reason why I do what I do. I want to try to make experiences better for others. This resource has helped me ask those questions of myself, someone who has been an able-bodied person for their whole entire life. If it can help me guide my planning for the students I have in front of me, it can also help each and every one of you guide your thought process if you are also one of those able-bodied people who are working with those with differing abilities. It will help us adjust our mindset. It will help us move forward and provide those opportunities for everyone, not just the students who are the star athletes, because that is not what our physical education classes are about. Our physical education classes are about creating an inclusive environment for everyone, no matter what their ability is. And I just want to end by saying thank you very much to each and every one of you, because I put the work in, and I know that you're putting the work in, and teachers are putting that work in. You just have to find them. If you can help find us, we will be very welcoming to have you come into our schools. We want to make connections with you. I know some of your organizations are already making connections with our school boards. We have students going to watch blind hockey games. It's amazing. So please continue that flow, continue that collaboration, because we as teachers, we need you, and I think you need us a little bit as well. So thank you very much, everyone.